I am the Chief Communications Officer, and we welcome you. We are going to be reviewing the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools 2023-24 data release. We have a panel for you today. Our Superintendent, Dr. Crystal Hill, Beth Thompson, our Chief Strategy Innovation Officer, Dr. Melissa Bachknight, Deputy Superintendent, and then a fantastic panel of principals who will be introduced later on. After our speakers today, we will take a round or two of questions, depending on time, that are related to the data release. Any additional or other questions can be sent to our media inbox. Again, thank you for being here, and we will start with our superintendent, Dr. Crystal Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Spickard. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize our board members who are here. We have our board vice chair, Mr. D. Rankin, and we also have board member Mrs. Elizabeth Monterey Duvall. So thank you so much for being here this morning. We'd like to welcome everyone to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools 2023-2024 Performance Data Media Briefing. We take this opportunity to share with you, our media partners, the data that the state released this morning to add context, to provide a deeper review, and provide more detailed direction on our Journey to Excellence roadmap. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools has a bold and ambitious goals designed to help students achieve academic excellence. We have spent the past year creating our district's 5-year strategic plan, which, by the way, starts right now. And we've organized our service delivery model, laying a foundation for the success across our district. Today, Beth Thompson, our Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer, will provide you with an overview of our district school performance data. Then you will hear from our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Melissa Bachknight. She will share areas focus highlights. And finally, we have invited several of our outstanding principals to share with you highlights about the work they have done to successfully facilitate student growth in their schools. Beth, please take us through what we've learned from our data release.
Good morning, and welcome to the media briefing for the review of our Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools assessment results for the 23-24 school year as released by the state of North Carolina this morning. For our media partners, you can access this presentation using the QR code on your one-pager. If for any reason you didn't get a one-pager on the way in, Dr. Spickard can provide it for you. Each year, we receive a large amount of data from the state of North Carolina telling us about the academic achievement of our students for the previous school year. It's our goal each year to communicate results to stakeholders with transparency, focus, and intentionality. We again have made every effort to do that here today. Please know there is a lot of data that we will present and even more data in the appendix of this presentation. We will be more than happy to answer any additional questions you may have using the media@cms.k12.nc.us email address. So we'll start with what we call our headline results, the things we find significant and important for our community to be talking about. 143, that's 83.4% of Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools met or exceeded growth, the highest number in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools history. 33 schools improved their school letter grades from the 22-23 to 23-24 school year. And 108 Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools earned a school performance grade of an A, B, or C, an increase of 5 from the 22-23 school year. For the first time in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools history, more schools were removed from the state low performing designation list than were added. As a result of efforts in the 23-24 school year, 19 schools no longer have a state low performing designation. 17 different schools now do have a state low performing designation. I'm going to share more about that later. We had an increase in the 23-24 graduation rate, an increase to 84%, including what you'll see are significant increases in the graduation rates of Hispanic and multilingual learners. And in terms of student achievement, There were increases in grade level proficiency in math, science, and K-2 early literacy, slight decreases in grade level proficiency in reading and English 2. A decrease in achievement gaps between white and Black and Hispanic student groups in K-2 early literacy, and gaps in achievement remain across racial, ethnic, specialized service, and economically disadvantaged and non-economically disadvantaged student groups in other content areas. While there are many data points to discuss related to the district, we're going to focus around state data this morning. It is a lot of data, so we're going to organize in the following way. I'm first going to discuss overarching state school performance measures: graduation rate, growth, school performance grades, and designations. These are often the headlines, and I want to make sure we start with these and candidly that all information is reported accurately in these areas. I'll then discuss additional school performance measures that are required by the state of North Carolina by subject area and grade level. Next, I'll talk about student performance measures related to our new 5-year goals set by our Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education and reflective of our community's vision and values. But they are aligned to state performance measures as well, and we'll be reporting out on these at each and every school board meeting. As Dr. Hill stated, Dr. Balknight will then share areas of focus in response to the data, and of course, we have the hardest working people I know, our spotlight principals, who are going to be here to share what they're planning to do this year. As a reminder, the state provides results using 4 descriptors: not proficient, level 3, level 4, and level 5. If a student achieves a level 3 on a state assessment, the student is considered grade level proficient. Grade level proficient means just what it says. A student has sufficiently mastered grade level skills and is ready for the next grade level. If a student achieves a 4 or a 5 on a state assessment, the student is considered college and career ready. Aligned to state reporting, we'll report out on both descriptors for all students throughout this presentation today, as well as in the appendix. There are also a few acronyms you're going to see in data sets today. They're listed on this slide. More specific information about any of these categories can be found on the state website, and of course, we'll be happy to take questions. So let's dig in. I'm going to start by looking at the 23-24 graduation rate for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. After all, this is what our work is all about: graduating students for post-secondary success. The 4-year cohort graduation rate for students in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools for the 23-24 school year is 84%. That's an increase of 1.4 from the 22-23 school year. When we compare this to the graduation rate over the last 6 years, this is higher than the 2 preceding years, but still not as high as it was pre-pandemic. This improvement is a positive trend and the result of a lot of hard work on the part of our district, school, and community team members. But I want to be honest, it is not where we want to be. We anticipate a significant increase at the end of this year, given the plans across accountability, student services, technology, and in collaboration with our assistant superintendents for high school performance. We already have those plans in motion, and we're committed to an increase for this year. When we compare graduation rates by racial ethnic groups, we see an increase in graduation rates for all, noting that the Black student group graduation rate remains steady at 83.1%. There was an increase in the graduation rate for the Hispanic student group from 70.8%, shown in purple here in 22-23, to 75.2% in 23-24, an increase of 4.4. Last year at this very event, I shared with you all, and I quote myself on this, that we had been seeing a notable decline in the graduation rate of our Hispanic student group over the last 2 years. This year, my speaker notes are different. Robust, continuous improvement efforts took place last school year resulting in the highest graduation rate for Hispanic students in the last school years. We have so much work to continue to do to eliminate gaps in graduation rate across student groups, but this particular improvement is indeed promising news. When we compare graduation rates by specialized service groups, academically gifted English language learners and students with disabilities, pleased to see a significant increase in graduation rate of English language learners, from 56% in 22-23 to 65% in 23-24, while there was a slight decrease in the graduation rate of students with disabilities, shown here in green, as well as a slight decrease of 1.2 in the graduation rate of economically disadvantaged students in the 23-24 school year. Throughout this presentation, we've included slides that show the results of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools compared to the state as a whole, and also to several other urban comparable districts in North Carolina. Compared to the state and other districts, you can see that the 23-24 CMS graduation rate of 84% is below the state of North Carolina graduation rate and our comparable districts. Again, you will see dramatic improvement this year. And we took time with principals and continue to celebrate some of our individual school increases in graduation rate in the 23-24 school year. We are so proud of their efforts and celebrate alongside them today. Next, we're going to look at school growth. Each year, the state of North Carolina reports on how much students grew in their learning in reading, math, and science. Growth is reported by school and by district, and it's a part of each school's school performance grade. We're particularly interested in this measure as we are still tracking recovery from the pandemic. We know many students need to grow more than just 1 year to be at or above grade level. The state has 3 categories for growth: did not meet, met, or exceeded. And in the 23-24 school year, 146 of 175 schools, that's 83.4% of our schools, met or exceeded growth. That's an increase of 0.8 from the 22-23 school year. This slide shows a breakdown of the number of schools that exceeded, met, and didn't meet growth for the 23-24 school year. 36%, that's 63 schools, exceeded growth. 47%, that's 83 schools, met growth. And 17%, 29 schools, did not meet growth. Note that the total of 175 Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools that received growth data is because there are business rules by the state about which schools count and don't count. Those business rules are in the footnote of this slide, and we'd be happy to answer any more additional questions you have on that. And here you see a total of 146 of the 175 schools that met or exceeded growth. This is the largest number of schools meeting or exceeding growth in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools history. Thank you. And an increase of 12.6, 27 schools meeting or exceeding growth compared to pre-pandemic, that first row on the table, in 2018-2019. The percentage of 83.4% is the second highest percentage of schools meeting or exceeding growth in the last 9 years, trailing only behind 85.9% back in 2015-2016. This is great news, and we commend the tremendous work on the part of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools teachers, teacher assistants, support staff, and principals and assistant principals. Work that, as you see here, gets better every year. The principals you'll be talking to today all led schools that exceeded growth last year. Be sure and ask them how their schools did it. Of the 146 schools we just discussed that met or exceeded growth, shown here are the 63 schools that exceeded growth in the 23-24 school year. Of these schools, 32 schools now have exceeded growth for 2 consecutive years. These schools have 2 asterisks next to their school names. And 20 schools have exceeded growth for 3 consecutive years. These schools are denoted on this slide with 3 asterisks. I want to call out that when you look on the schools on this list, they are from all over Charlotte-Mecklenburg, across neighborhoods, communities, racial ethnic groups, and socioeconomic statuses. These are proof points of possibility and places with practices that we want to replicate in every Charlotte-Mecklenburg school. That is just the type of continuous improvement work we're going to continue to do this year. Now we've talked about growth, so we're going to shift to school performance grades. Since 2013-2014, school performance data have been used to assign letter grades to North Carolina public schools as required by North Carolina general statute. The grades are based on each school's achievement score, a weight of 80%, and each school's academic growth, a weight of 20%. The total school performance score is converted to a 100-point scale and then used to determine if a school is going to be an A, B, C, D, or F. In the 23-24 school year, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools increased the number and percent of schools earning an A, B, or C designation. 60% of Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools received an A, B, or C, an increase of 1.8 from 22-23. 40% of Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools received a letter grade of D or F, a decrease of 1.8 in 22-23. This is the one time that a decrease is a good thing. We had 33 schools that improved their school performance grade from the 22-23 to 23-24 school year. I want to again call out that there are schools on this list from all over Charlotte, from Eastway and Lebanon Road and Cochran in the east, to Oakdale and Hornets Nest and Tuckasegee in the west, to North Academy of World Languages and Governor's Village in our northern corridor, to McKee and Community House in the south. Oh, and let's not forget Elizabeth Traditional and Villa Heights toward the center of Charlotte. These are more proof points of possibility and places with practices we want to replicate. Make no mistake, endless possibilities are happening in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. So when North Carolina looks at the combination of the measures we've just reviewed, school growth and school performance grades, and sees schools that are not yet growing students at the accelerated rate needed to make a significant enough increase in proficiency, schools receive a designation called low performing. I want to talk us through that designation. For the schools, when we consider the number of schools by state designated performance grade, but who all exceeded growth, the following should be noted. There were 7, 15, and 25 Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools with a letter grade of an A, B, or C that also exceeded growth. There were 16 schools with a letter grade of a D that exceeded growth. Even though these schools have a letter grade of a D, they do not have a low performing designation. That's because these schools exceeded growth. They made greater than expected growth with their students in one school year. And this is how our state acknowledges that exceeding growth year over year will ultimately result in increased proficiency. And therefore those gains exceeding growth should not result in a designation of low performing for a school. In contrast, however, schools that only met growth and have a school performance grade of a D or F are on a low performing designation list. The state saying that just meeting growth isn't enough to close achievement gaps and increase proficiency over time. Therefore, schools with a D or F and meeting growth last year totaled 26 schools for a letter grade D and 10 for a letter grade F. And those schools are on the low performing designation list for this year. You can expect our assistant superintendents of school performance and our district departments here with us today to be working very closely with the leadership and staff at these schools, mobilizing district support where needed to accelerate student growth at these schools this year. And the final category for growth is did not meet growth. It probably stands to reason that schools that did not meet growth and have a letter grade of a D or F are also going to be on that low-performing list. It does bear noting, though, that sometimes there are schools earning a B or a C that didn't meet growth as well. So when we put all this together, we see that in 23-24, there were 56 schools with the low-performing state designation, representing 32.2% of all Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. This is fewer than the 22-23 school year, but more than the 2018-19 and 21-22 school year. But when we look a little deeper, we noted some interesting information about these designations. The list of schools with the low-performing designation is not the same every year. On the table on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that at the end of 23-24, 19 schools in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools were removed from the list of schools with the state low-performing designation. The efforts of the leaders and the staff at these schools and the efforts of the district support put in place to support these schools were successful with these 19 schools. You're going to hear from leaders who led this work, successfully removing a school from the low-performing designation in just a few moments. However, just as our efforts with the 19 schools worked, 17 schools were added to the state low-performing designation. This means we have an area for improvement moving forward. We need to be able to support schools who are designated as low-performing, but also ensure that additional schools have the support needed as well. Said differently, if we only focus on schools with a designation, we run the risk of neglecting needed support that could cause more schools to receive that designation the following year. Addressing how we monitor progress district-wide, how we address school needs district-wide, how we support growth district-wide, and proficiency district-wide will continue to be a major focus in our district annual plan, and our restructuring and reorganization of our school performance areas is directly aligned to this. So now let's look at grade level proficiency in some of our other areas. When we look at district composite score for grade level proficiency, we see that it is at 52.7%, up 0.6% from 22-23. And now that we've covered headline results, growth, school performance grades, low performing designations, we're going to zoom in on some of our various metrics that make up growth and school performance grades, starting with science. Student performance in elementary and middle school science, assessed in grades 5 and 8, increased in both grade level proficiency and college and career readiness by 1.5 and 1.6 respectively. This means 65.8% of 5th and 8th grade students were grade level proficient in science, and 56.6% of students were college and career ready. Significant gains took place in both grade level proficiency and college and career readiness in 5th grade science, but those same gains were not seen in 8th grade science. Compared to the state and other districts, you can see that our students performed just below the state average in both grade level proficiency and college and career readiness, but exceeded 2 of our 3 comparable counties in overall performance. There were some really incredible, and I might even say unprecedented gains in the area of science in some of our schools during the 23-24 school year. Of note are schools that are on this slide right here, and we celebrate alongside them today. Now let's look at high school biology. In the high school course of biology, student performance increased in grade level proficiency by 0.8, but decreased in college and career readiness by 1. 51.4% of biology students were grade level proficient, and 43.6% of students were college and career ready. Compared to the state and other districts, you can see that our students were just below the state average in both level 3, 4, or 5, and in levels 4 and 5 in biology, but exceeded performance with 2 of our comparable counties. I also want to draw your attention to an interesting observation in level 4 or 5, college or career readiness in biology. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools were not alone in decreases here. There was a decline in the percentage of students scoring level 4 or 5 in biology in all 3 of our comparable counties and across the state of North Carolina. And as always, we celebrate with many of our high schools for an outstanding year of increases in the area of biology last year. English 2 is another high school course that counts for our state accountability model. In the high school course of English 2, student performance decreased in grade level proficiency and college and career readiness by 1.1 and 1.5 respectively. 58.6% of English 2 students were grade level proficient and 36.1 were college and career ready. Compared to the state and other districts, you can see English 2 students performed just below the state average in grade level proficiency, but outperformed the state average with 2 of our 3 comparable counties in college and career readiness. However, this performance is a decrease for our English 2 students in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. We had many schools we celebrate with gains in English 2 student proficiency and college and career readiness. Those are listed here. And last in this section, the Every Student Succeeds Act, known as ESSA, requires each state to provide an annual assessment of English language proficiency to all students identified as English language learners. The rate of English learner progress for the 23-24 school year was 23.4%. This was an increase in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools of 1.8 from the 22-23 school year. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools outperformed both the state and every one of our comparable districts listed here in the area of English learner progress, English learners learning the English language, increasing again over the 22-23 school year. So we're now going to shift gears. We're going to look at last year's data, but we're going to do it through the lens of this year's goals. In essence, looking back in order to look forward. These are metrics that are reported by the state of North Carolina, but they're also aligned to our community's goals. We're going to do so in order, starting with Goal 1, that's focused on early literacy, specifically the performance of kindergarten, first, and second grade students. The assessment that all districts in North Carolina use to assess early literacy skills is called M-Class DIBELS. DIBELS stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills, and I don't suggest you try to say it 5 times fast. This slide highlights that each of our 5-year goals have targets for each year. The year we've just completed, 23-24, is year 0, the year before our 5-year strategic plan officially begins. When we set these targets a year ago, we estimated how much progress we would make this past year. It was a projection. You can see that while we had good improvement in 23-24, increasing from 67 to 70.4%, it is just short of our 23-24 projection of 72%. So this means that for the 24-25 school year, this year, our first official year of the 24-29 strategic plan, we need to increase early literacy achievement from 70.4% to 76%. Every school's goals in their school improvement plan for this year are set to be sure that their school target aligns to this rate of increase. So for Goal 1, we made really good progress, and we have a lot more work to do to hit our goal. When we break it down by grade level, 7,313 of our 9,825 kindergarten students, that's 74.4%, were at or above benchmark. 7,338 of our 10,446 first grade students, that's 70.2%, were at or above benchmark. And 7,255 of our 10,863 second grade students, that's 66.8%, were at or above benchmark. In total, 21,906 of our K-2 students were at or above benchmark in literacy last year. This is an increase in percent of students at or above benchmark in all 3 grade levels, 1.5, 2.1, and 4.6 respectively. But just wait. Since the 21-22 school year, the gap between the performance of white students and black students on the K-2 DIBELS assessment has narrowed by 9.5. In the 21-22 school year, the gap was 30.1, shown by the purple box here. In the 22-23 school year, the gap was 23.2, also shown by the purple box here. And in the 23-24 school year, the gap is 20.6, decreasing 9.5 over the last 2 years. Additionally, since the 21-22 school year, the gap between the performance of white students and Hispanic students on the K-2 DIBELS assessment has narrowed by 8. In the 21-22 school year, the gap was 40.9. In the 22-23 school year, the gap was 33.6. And in the 23-24 school year, the gap is 32.9, decreasing again by 8 over the last 2 years. Let's be clear, we've just gotten started, and these gaps need to be eliminated. But this is beyond promising and provides inspiration for continued work in eliminating gaps and ensuring that we hit our goal of 91%, or we could do more, of our K-2 students learning to read. We see a similar trend with our specialized service groups of students with disabilities and English language learners. Where we were in 21-22, where we were in 22-23, and where we are coming out of 23-24. But one more thing about the DIBELS Early Literacy Assessment. It's not just administered to students in North Carolina. So there's an opportunity to compare the results of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools students, not just with our own district or our own state, but also nationally. And check it out. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools kindergarten, first, and second grade students outperformed students nationally in all 3 grade levels by 9 in kindergarten, 6 in first grade, and 7 in second grade. Students also outperformed other students across the state of North Carolina in kindergarten and second grade, and were just under the state average in first grade by 1. What a testament to the incredible work that has been taking place in the area of K-2 literacy over the last 5 years. From a new curriculum to robust teacher professional development, including development in Orton-Gillingham and the state-sponsored Letters Initiative, to high-dosage tutoring, and the vital instruction that's provided by our teacher assistants. And this is work we can't wait to continue and make even better throughout this school year. Next, we have Goal 2, also focused on literacy, but this time the focus continues beyond K-2 to reading in grades 3 through 8. The assessment that all districts in North Carolina use is called the End of Grade Reading Assessment, usually referred to as the EOG. So again, when we look at our 5-year Goal 2 targets for each year, you can see that we projected 23-24 performance to be 34%. You can see that we did not have the projected improvement in 23-24, decreasing from 31% to 30%. So this year, for the 24-25 school year, our first official year of the strategic plan, we will increase grades 3-8 reading from 30 to 37%. Again, each school's goals in the school improvement plan will be aligned to this effort. We continue to watch, with this group of students in particular, the impact of the pandemic. These 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade students were kindergartners and first graders when our instruction was interrupted. Not an excuse, but definitely something that we want to make sure that we note as we seek to be able to make sure that we can fill any gaps that could have taken place during that time frame. Shown here are student achievement, is student achievement across grade levels, both in grade level proficiency, level 3, 4, and 5, and then also college and career readiness. There were gains seen at some grade levels, but not at others. And when looking at Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools student achievement compared to the state and other districts, you can see our students were below the state average of student performance in grades 3 through 8 reading and grade level proficiency, but above performance of 2 of our 3 comparable counties. It should also be noted that there was a decline in the percentage of students scoring at 3, 4, or 5 in readings grade 3, 8, and 2 of our 3 comparable counties as well. And we know gains are possible. Just look right here. We continue to celebrate the amazing gains that are happening in schools across Charlotte-Mecklenburg. Next, we have goal 3, which is also focused on the high school math. It's focused on the high school math 1 course. The assessment that all districts in North Carolina use to assess math 1 skills is called the end of course math 1 assessment. This one is referred to as the EOC. So when we look at our 5-year goal 3 targets for each year, you can see that we projected in 23-24 for performance to be 32%. We did have a slight improvement in 23-24, increasing from 27 to 28.4%, but that fell short of our 23-24 projection of 32%. So again, our work is cut out for us this year. Our first official year of the 24-29 strategic plan will be increasing math achievement from 28.4% to 37%. Each school's goals in their school improvement plans for this year are set to support that increase. When we look at the performance of Math 1 students across high school, middle school, and all together, you can see that there were gains with the exception of high school Math 1. And we celebrate those gains across our middle schools and across our high schools. We know that student performance in Math 1 is predicated by student performance in math in grades 3 through 8. In grades 3 through 8 math, Charlotte-Mecklenburg School students increased both grade level proficiency and college and career readiness by 1.5 and 1.2 respectively. 54.6% of grades 3-8 math students were grade level proficient, and 38.9% of grades 3 through 8 math students were college and career ready. And when we look at the performance of students in math across grades 3-8, students who will be taking Math 1 in the coming years of the future of our goal, you can see that student achievement gains were seen across every single grade level and content area in grades 3-8 math, both in grade level proficiency and college and career readiness, without exception. And what tremendous gains schools showed in grades 3-8 math last school year, as shown here. And our last goal. All right, now we have goal 4, which our Board of Education and is in the process of setting a target for, as we had planned to be doing at this point this year. There are metrics associated with this, and in the spirit of time today, I encourage you to tune in for upcoming Board of Education meetings for more detailed data regarding these indicators related to post-secondary readiness, as well as a vote on the goal itself that's scheduled for November. These data are also included, data that are a part of our state release are also included in the appendix of this presentation. Now that we've done our full review of 23-24 data, let's talk about what we'll be doing in the 24-25 school year and beyond. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Melissa Balknight, Deputy Superintendent, to talk about what we're currently doing during this year and will be doing in upcoming school years to respond to this data and enact our 24-25 annual plan and 5-year strategic plan.
Thank you, Beth. As Beth said, we are at this very moment doing the things that we said we're going to do this school year. The actions in this plan are organized around 4 pillars of excellence. While the strategies of the academic pillars are mostly closely aligned with our goals, the strategies in the other 3 pillars are people, operations, and engagement. They are critical to the achievement of our goals. Every district department has actions and targets for the school year. Every school also has targets and actions for the school year. We're going to do them all. But there are a few areas of focus for this school year that we feel are real game changers for us. We are ensuring that we meet our goal targets for this year, and I'm excited to share those with you. We've had such an incredible opportunity with diversity in the students attending Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. What a gift that has been to the learning experience for all of us. We know all of our students are smart and capable, but one size does not fit all. So as we approach the school year to meet the needs of our students and our learners, as we have here at Paw Creek, as we visit our classrooms here, we see teachers providing individualized support to students. We also see that everything matters. This helps students make connections, and ultimately the supports have resulted in year-over-year accelerated growth and increased student proficiency at Paw Creek. I want to be clear, students at Paw Creek, regardless of racial, ethnic group, specialized service group, or economic advantage, are achieving. Not growth, not just growth, but grade level proficiency, and that's very important to the work. We are making sure that the instruction happening here, providing resources and development of teachers and staff, and monitoring classroom instruction, and making adjustments when necessary, along with the needed supports for all of our schools, is occurring. And Paw Creek Elementary is the example. The possibilities for students in Charlotte-Mecklenburg are truly endless at this school. Have you ever wanted to help a student, but you haven't known how? Well, sometimes students take an assessment and don't perform as well as you would have liked them to. They say something like, I just didn't understand, or I didn't get to finish. And you want to help them, but you aren't sure how you can do that or where to start. And there are notes from classes to assist. Practice problems, practice questions. I know I certainly have as a parent. Well, if you can relate, then we hear you. We have already started implementing something across the district called iReady. It will be used in all of our schools in grades kindergarten through 8. Students can use it in school and at home, so our parents can help us with this. Students will take an initial placement test. No worries, there are no grades for this placement test. It's truly an assessment to know where kids start. It tells us what a student already knows and what the student needs to learn. It will then develop a personalized pathway for each student to continue their learning. And parents and caretakers will be able to see what their children are learning and be able to assist them at home. We're very excited about this and to have this opportunity for all of our students to have access to this program. We also want to talk about, along the same lines, new programs for our Family Academy. Again, we need your support. The course catalog is on the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools website. Some sessions are in person and some are virtual. All sessions will help our parents help their students. Upcoming sessions begin on September the 19th. We have a session that will help parents learn about reading. Students in kindergarten through 5th grade will understand and have support as they learn how to read in this year's session with parents. As we learn more to interpret their students' results and the first administration of dibbles, as Beth referred to earlier, that we utilize in our lower grades with our early literacy assessment, we'll also be able to have this information available to our parents to assist them at home as well. And these are just a few examples of the many opportunities that we'll have in our Family Academy this upcoming school year. We have so many community partners that are amazing. We know that we need their support and their help to do this work. And we have so many schools that have needs. This year, our partnership department's a new dashboard to make the connection between partners and schools. We're going live in September with this dashboard, which will reflect the results of feedback from all of our schools. 186 schools completed a survey to give us this feedback. Partners are waiting to help, and we really want and need our partners to help. They can reach out to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Partnerships Department to make the connection. We do ask that partners not reach out directly to schools, as they have lots of work to do. There are important steps we need to make sure occur before you work with our schools as partners. So please reach out to our Partnerships Department. And last but not least, students will be starting to develop learner profiles this school year. These profiles will assist staff and families to nurture students and support them as they make decisions about post-secondary opportunities. This is going to be a game changer for our families as students make decisions at an early age about what they intend to do beyond high school. I will now turn it back over to Beth to introduce our fantastic principal.
I'm going to ask our principals to come on up, turn their mics on, and direct you to the back of your one-pager where you have very short bio information about each of those principals. We're happy to welcome Principal Danielle Belton of Paul Creek Elementary and her staff, and we thank them for hosting us today. Principal Belton here has led here for 11 years. In the past 3 years, Paul Creek Elementary has exceeded growth every year, this year achieving the highest growth score possible in the state of North Carolina. Paul Creek moved from a letter grade of D in 21-22 to a C in 22-23, and now this past year is a letter grade of a B. This is what continuous improvement looks like, and ensuring students have access to and she can speak specifically to strategies used with students who may need additional support to access grade level curriculum, but can do so and master standards. We also have Principal Marshall of Druid Hills Academy serving students in grades pre-kindergarten through 8th grade. Due to her track record leading tremendous academic achievement at Briarwood Academy, she was eligible to be part of a state initiative to transition her skills for school improvement to a school that hadn't shown school improvement for a period of time. In her first year at Druid Hills Academy, the school exceeded growth, increased the school letter grade, and no longer has the state designation of low performing. She can specifically speak to efforts in school improvement in pre-K-8 school settings. We also have Michael Jarrell of McClinic Middle School serving students in grades 6 through 8th grade. McClinic also increased the school letter grade from D to C, increasing school-wide growth from net to exceeded growth, and no longer has a low-performing designation. Along with other school-based community efforts, he can speak to the incredible impact of strong community and faith-based partnerships to support academic achievement. And last but certainly not least, we have Principal Shannon Hamilton of Croft Community Schools, serving students in grades pre-kindergarten through 5th grade. Croft increased also a school letter grade last year, increasing school-wide growth from net to exceeded, and no longer has the state low-performing designation. Along with the other school-based improvement efforts, Principal Hamilton can speak specifically to the impact of a new effort that took place last year to offer the opportunity for students to retest at the end of the school year if their scores weren't where they wanted them to be for the very first time. And with that, Principal Belton, I'm going to turn it over to you for a few remarks. If you'll just make sure you hit that button on your microphone.
Got it. Greetings, Superintendent Hill, Madam School Board Chair, school board members, cabinet members, and all of you present here today. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to Paul Creek Elementary School. I am Danielle Belton, and I have been proud principal here over the past 11 years. This is my home. When I think about our school's success, they're rooted in our school's core values of learning, family, and fun. Learning, we're all the adults in the building are invested in getting better, being in a learning orientation, growing and innovating our practices so that we in turn can increase learning outcomes for kids, as our superintendent has charged us with getting 1% better each day. Learning also looks like our coaching model that we have in place. Every single teacher has a coach. Members of my administrative team, we all coach teachers. We're in their classrooms. We're giving them in-the-moment feedback. We sit down with them weekly, having locked-in coaching meetings where we're planning, we're looking kid by kid, looking at strengths and gaps, and we're planning to narrow the gaps when they're small. For example, through our small group instruction. If kids didn't master something today, that day, or the next day, we're pulling them into a small group, as you all saw in one of the pictures, and we're intervening then. Learning also looks like opening up practice across our school. You see, we are in each other's classrooms all the time. Just last week, I had several new teachers. We didn't tell them to read a book. We sent them to master teachers right away, all across the school, so they can see it in action. And in turn, we've been able to accelerate the practice of new teachers and all teachers by allowing them to see great best practices. This afternoon, I probably should be canceling staff meeting, but we have differentiated professional development opportunities where I have those master teachers, those teacher leaders, my MCLs, my administrative staff. We're doing differentiated professional development sessions so teachers can get exactly what they need. Also, family, I have the very best staff that any principal could ever ask for. The best assistant principal, Ms. LaToya Wright, the best dean of students, Ms. Childress, the best coaches, the best teachers, the best secretaries. This work is because of them, and we are a family. And here we treat all of our students like they are our family. I want for them what I want for my own child. We want for them what we want for our personal children. And see, I'm not the only leader in this building. Everyone leads. When they see gaps, they fill them so that we can make our school the very best that it can be. And I can't forget about fun. Learning here is not boring. We are invested in making sure learning is at high levels and engaging for kids. So that looks like our fourth graders, they're doing poetry right now. We'll culminate that with a poetry slam. So they're celebrating their authentic work. Our third graders in an upcoming unit with our L curriculum, they're going to be reading about frogs, but not just reading about frogs. We're going to pull out the Legos and robotics, and they're going to build frogs. We're going to order frogs to have in the classroom. They're going to build frog Pokemon-like cards to make it real, because we want to make sure that our students are invested and engaged at really high levels. Coupled with our signature nights that we involve our families in, like our STEM night, our family fun night. We do those things so that we connect and we make sure that learning is fun. And student efficacy. Here at Paw Creek, 11 years ago, we coined the term, students are smart, studious, motivated, ambitious, respectful, and talented. And they hear that daily. We know that students will meet our expectations of being smart when we invest in them. And we set them up to be confident learners, not just now, but in middle school, high school, and beyond. Because we pour into them. If I walked into any given classroom right now, they'll probably tell you one or two things. Paw Creek students are smart, or they'll say Paw Creek students are number one, because we let them know that they are the best. And I'm really going to be letting them know something when you all leave today. Everyone here in attendance, we are a Title I school on the west side of Charlotte, but we are a B school that consecutively exceeds growth expectations for all kids, proving that the possibilities truly are endless. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Belton. And Principal Marshall.
Well, I'm just going to say ditto what she said. I'm not as dynamic of a speaker. I told Ms. Belton in our meeting yesterday, she's the OG of school improvement. So humbling to sit up next to her and with this panel. So when I accepted and excitedly took the challenge of going to Druid Hills Academy, my home was 8 years at Briarwood, which was my family. I took a small team with me. And we decided that the number one determining factor of academic success is the teacher in the classroom. So our first focus was building the capacity of the teachers in those classrooms. To build that capacity, we had a team of multi-classroom leaders, who I might argue are the best, that had a proven track record of supporting and coaching teachers to success like we did at Briarwood. There also had to be a belief, not just in our MCLs and our teacher leaders and in our administrative team, but in the staff and the students, that all kids really could learn. Sounds cliche, but to really believe that, and then your actions follow that kids could learn, but they had to be provided a quality education, an engaging education, and aligned instruction. And the other caveat to that was we could believe in them, but they had to also believe in themselves. And having been an F for 3 years, barely meeting, you lose that belief in yourself. And so we had to kind of find a way to reignite that. And we put the best teachers and the best teacher coaches, EIT 3s, MCLs, to support that. The other focus was building the comprehensive approach to climate and culture of excellence. And I did steal Dr. Hill's Excellence Without Exception, and this year it's 2.0. Subscript. This year it's Excellence Without Exception, subscript 2.0. And that culture of excellence had to be comprehensive: academic, relationship, community partners, and teamwork. And I maybe missed the first word. Team clearly is the answer. Having that team of high leverage educators and those who believe. So really having that, those like-minded educators who could build from the ground. So we rebuilt expectations on attendance, I hesitate to say, but for staff and for students. So we decreased our staff absenteeism in half in the first quarter, and over the course of the year, we decreased our student chronic absenteeism by over 15%. And we made sure that academic excellence was happening by leading those PLCs, those professional learning communities, where the MCLs and the EITs were that instructional planning, so that positive, proactive, and purposeful planning happens, so that the engaged and aligned instruction could be delivered. We also rebuilt parent involvement and the positive connection with our parents. We did some of that with our wonderful community partners. Blythe and St. Peter's are two of our really big community partners, long-standing actually for over a decade. They financially support, but they also support in person. They provide things for our academic excellence like tutoring, STEAM Fridays with DigiBridge, basic needs, incentives for our teachers and our staff, helping with parent events, Muffins with Moms, International Night, Financial Literacy Night, EOG Carnivals, Dibbles boot camps, reading nights. So really leveraging those partnerships that we have. And I would say lastly, and maybe simply put, our whole focus was on kids. Everything, and I think Dr. I'll steal your phrase, everything we do had to end with kids achieving. So everything we did, everything we put our hearts and our collective minds in, ended with student outcomes. And so that was really the biggest move at Druid Hills. I realized within about 7.9 seconds, it was not a kid issue. It was absolutely just a mind shift and a belief shift that all kids could learn, and that our job was to unlock that. So team and focus on the right things that matter. So I'm really proud to be the principal at Druid Hills Academy.
Thank you, Principal Marshall, and Principal Gerald at McClintock Middle School.
So when we started this work at McClintock, it started 2 years ago, not just last year. When we started, we said it was about three things: systems, culture, instruction. We needed to have safe and efficient systems in our building. We needed to have a strong student and teacher culture. And we had to have quality instruction every single day. So first, with systems. That was the first thing that we tackled 2 years ago. We needed to make sure that students knew where to go, where they were expected to be. The teachers knew where to go, where they were expected to be, and what to do when, in all scenarios. My principal mentor, Mike Melody, told me, he said, at my school, we have a system for everything. And I said, everything? He said, everything. And 2 years later, we have a system for everything at McClintock, so that we can make sure that the focus is on teaching and learning every single day, where kids feel safe, teachers feel supported, and students feel like they can focus on becoming their best selves. Then we moved on to culture. We needed to have a strong student culture and a strong staff culture. Last year, we love a good acronym in education. Here at Paul Creek, it's SMART. At McClintock, it is Mighty Scott Pride. Purpose, responsibility, integrity, determination, excellence. Last year, at the beginning of the year, we said we need to stop talking so much about what we don't want our kids to do and what we want our kids to be about. And it was those things right there. So everything that we do with the foundation of pride. Every morning, we have a Mighty Scott Pride chant over the loudspeaker. And you would think that 6th through 8th graders would be too cool to do the Mighty Scott Pride chant. Come visit McClintock Middle School about 8:35 every morning and hear the walls rattle with the Mighty Scott Pride chant. So we needed to make sure we built a strong student culture, but we also needed to make sure we built a strong adult culture, a strong staff culture. The vision of our school is to be the school of choice for students, for families, and for educators in Charlotte, North Carolina. We want students excited to come to our school. We want families proud to send their kids to our school, not just because of their zip code or because of the neighborhood they live in, but because they know their child will attain an excellent education. But we also want to be the school of choice for educators. We want teachers to be happy at our school and to feel like they can be their best selves and get down to the business of teaching and learning. So that's why we have a new teacher coach that is dedicated to support all of our beginning teachers. We do what we can to retain our highest quality educators. And as a result, we've been fully staffed for 3 years. Constantly filling positions, finding people to take over, and making sure we have the best people in front of our students every single day. And then third, we have to focus on instruction. I was fortunate enough to inherit a number of teachers that are dynamic teachers, dynamic impact makers for kids. So we just had to add just a little bit more. Last year we had a big focus on growth. Every single student in our school had a growth score. All 1,050 kids had a growth target that they had for reading, a growth target they had for math, and in 8th grade they had a growth target for science. We had 3 benchmarks throughout the year. And after every single benchmark, they met one-on-one with someone to say, did you get to this score that you were supposed to get? And if not, what are we going to do differently? I had 8th graders running up to me on the bus lot, proud of their growth, excited about their growth, excited about their progress. And so those are the steps we made to exceed growth for the first time in school history. So we made a lot of progress in that way. So I think it's another thing that I just want to echo from the sentiment of this table that everybody here would agree. This work is not done in a silo. We have excellent educators at our school. We have school leaders. We have instructional leaders. I have Rachel Deere, Dawn Salters, and Molly Whalen who lead our math. I have Willie Brooks, Phoebe Kane, and Julie Rodwell who lead our literacy. Nicole Nesbitt who leads my science. Shannon Gibson who is an amazing academic facilitator. Joelle Colton who is our new teacher coach, and then my amazing administrative staff that started this work with me to get to where we need to be. We also have a phenomenal community partner in McPie, the Clinic Partners in Education in partnership with Christ Lutheran Church on Providence Road. They came behind us 17, 18 years ago and said we're going to support McClinic in ways that no one's ever seen. Every Tuesday night we have family night where McPie feeds the community. We feed anywhere from 150 to 200 people at families in our community every night. And then after that, they go to clubs. Students participate in clubs after school. Parents participate in Parent University to learn how to best support their students. Families for whom English is a second language have an opportunity to come and receive ESL classes at night to learn the English language. The support that McPie provides us, 2 years ago when instruction, teaching, and learning was really, really hard, McPie fed our staff every Thursday, provided dinner for our staff every single Thursday. So McPie is certainly the partnership that I inherited, but has really come alongside us and has worked together to help us achieve our goals. So it all came down to those 3 things: systems, culture, and instruction, and we're proud to hit our goal.
Thank you so much. And last but definitely not least, Principal Hamilton at Croft Community.
Well, thank you, Ms. Thompson. Shannon Hamilton, proud principal at Croft Community School. I'm going last. They have stolen all of the best answers. But it is truly an honor and a privilege to be representing the students and the staff at Croft Community School. I'm not going to fight Principal Belton since we're in her house, but it is truly the most amazing staff in CMS, top to bottom. My assistant principal, Michelle Rebeck, my MCL, Melissa Longarini, my whole team, George Bridgers, my counselor, a lot of work. So again, we'll leave it at that, Principal Belton. But the Croft Community School staff is just absolutely amazing. And this year we focused on people excellence, one of the 4 pillars of excellence in CMS. And we figured people excellence was the place to start. And so we talk a lot about the Crown experience. I think if you've been around, you know what that means. Everybody can level set around the Crown experience. And we talk about the Croft experience. And we want to create an experience that we could put any kid, any of our own kid in, and I think that's what we do day in and day out at Croft. The CMS Teacher Leader Pathway has been a program that has supported Croft in being able to recruit and retain amazing talent. So when I transitioned to Croft, I was at Long Creek Elementary before. We exceeded growth there for 2 years in a row. I'm excited that we also made history at Croft and exceeded growth this year for the first time at Croft Community School. But the Teacher Leader Pathway Program allows us to recruit and retain talent where we have teachers with a track record of being able to increase academic outcomes for students. And so I was able to bring a multi-classroom leader with me to support the work, and last year we had 4 extended Impact 2 teachers that we were able to put in front of kids to help lead teacher teams, and that has been a game changer for me in terms of recruiting and retaining teachers. This year I'm excited, we have added a math lead teacher to support my MCL, and we will have a total of 7 extended Impact teachers to put in front of kids and to lead teacher teams to be able to support the work. In addition to people excellence, we really started to create a data-driven culture. So every staff member knows what every student's projected percentile is and their projected achievement level. And as we took benchmarks and informal and formal assessments, we sat down as a team, and if there was a gap between a projection and a performance, we took the time to really dig into that data, into student work, to talk with the student to figure out where that gap was and what we needed to do as teachers to fill that gap for students and to accelerate their learning. And so that data-driven culture is something that I'm excited our staff is behind, our kids are behind, similar to the bus lot conversations. Kids want to know their goals. They want to tell you when they reach their goals. They believe in themselves. We believe in them as kiddos. As I was leaving today, my PTA parent just said, I just thank you, because at Croft Community School, we believe in all kids, and that's what it's really all about. I will say Dr. Hill always says if it's going to be excellence without exception, we all need to be in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. And I will tell you, everybody at Croft Community School was rowing in the same direction this year, and it resulted in increased proficiency gains and exceeding growth for the first time. And so kudos to Croft Community.
Thank you so much. And I think we'll now have Susan, who will help facilitate questions.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Vernon Devlin, your Executive Director of Media Relations and Crisis Communications here at CMS. And Kaylin already has her hand raised, so Kaylin.
Hi, I'm Kaylin Hagwood with WCNC Charlotte. My first question is directed toward Ms. Thompson, but any of our lovely principals can add on to it. First, you talked about a dramatic improvement that you're expecting to see among graduation rates. Can you talk about how large of an increase you sort of expect, and what is happening in specific that you're doing differently to achieve that type of an increase? And then as for our principals here, a lot of amazing things that you all are doing at each of your individual campuses. I know the needs of each campus are very different. So what do you feel can be replicated to help achieve these gains across the district?
We're very excited about our graduation rate and our opportunities. One of the things that we've already started this summer, we're reviewing every student's transcript in our high schools. And so we have teams that are working through our high schools to review their transcripts. We're also offering more opportunities for students to recover credits so they can get back on track. Because one of the things that's most important to students is that if I came in with this group of friends as a freshman, I want to graduate with them. So working to make sure that they can get back on track and graduate with the cohort that they came in with, and also making sure that students have opportunities for career and technical education courses. The research shows that when children take those courses, which is very hands-on, interactive, then they're more engaged in high school and more likely to remain. So we definitely intend to increase our graduation rate significantly by a huge focus with our high school assistant superintendents on our high school students.
The question around replicating best practices, I'll speak to coaching. Last school year, our superintendent, coupled with Ms. Kim Vaught, who's back there, all of our principals, assistant principals, leadership teams engaged in relay training. So it was really great professional development to help all of us develop our skill sets around coaching teachers, and not just coaching teachers. Here at Paul Creek, for example, I have MCLs and coaches, and my assistant principal and myself, we coach them. We have weekly meetings where we coach them. So just that continued focus on coaching. And I have a coach. Mr. James Garvin was my coach, my principal coach last year, and he continues with me this year. So just that focus on coaching and getting 1% better every day will pay dividends across our district.
One thing I want to add to that, Ms. Belton would not say that, but she also has somebody that she coaches, the principal at Tuckasegee, who also exceeded growth this year. So coaching really is a thing that's happening.
as reading, it sounds like the early literacy scores are really making some improvements there. But the reading grades through 3 through 8 are stubborn and trying to gain back what we've seen pre-pandemic. What do you think are some of the strategies that really need to be focused on to start getting those scores up? I mean, from an administrative level, principals want to weigh in from a school level as well.
I'll be glad to speak with it, and I don't know if any of the principals want to weigh in. One of the things that we were able to do this summer and continue to do is we provide resources to our schools. We provision resources to our schools. So we provided lots of training this summer. We'll have ongoing job embedded training as well throughout the school year. We have restructured our service delivery model. So we have middle school assistant superintendents that focus on that work, and also elementary assistant supes that'll focus on that 3-8 work. They have reading or literacy specialists that work with them in their performance communities as well. And so we'll be in schools monitoring and supporting on a larger scale, as you've heard the principal say many times about the teacher leader pathways or the master lead teachers and those sorts of things. So we'll be in classrooms coaching in real time with teachers this year as well.
I don't mind adding from the elementary perspective. Kids leave second grade, they need to be reading. And I say reading, calling words, because then we are really able to focus that 3-5 on comprehending what they're reading, building that vocabulary, adding to their background knowledge. And so I think through the Provision CMS resources, not just the main curriculum, but also the supplemental and the additional training in Orton Gillingham and the skills block, any educator I think would say we build that K2, then the 3-5 and the 6-8 will follow. But they don't just follow by crossing our fingers, right? They follow by using those resources with purpose and with consistency and with integrity. And that's that research-based practice. And then kind of piggybacking off of Ms. Hamilton, that there has to be the data piece. So kids want to know, like, what is it I need to learn? And that's when those data trackers become real live data trackers. And that's when an 8th grader high fives his principal in the bus lot because he knows he's met that goal. And so some of the training that we got through Relay, a lot of it is that data-driven instructional practice that will increase once we build that K2 solid foundation. That 3-8 will follow with intentionality.
And I just want to plug our Ready usage at home for families. We were able to use it last year. My son's school used it, and he was excited, and sometimes on the weekend coming home because he was excited to move to a 7th grade level, and he was in the 5th grade. So iReady was something easy, and it was at home, and it really helped my own personal child. So it's something that families could use at home, and it's individualized for each kid.
Alex?
Hi, Alex Sands with Axios Charlotte. I have 2 questions. The first one is, in the beginning you mentioned that there is a historic number of schools meeting or exceeding growth. I'm wondering, is there some kind of disclaimer there if the pandemic, maybe had we reached a low point where there was so much room for growth? And then my second question is, looking at the low performing schools, we're seeing about the same number coming on the list versus going off. I want to make sure that we're not neglecting certain schools. Do we know what's going on there? Are we shuffling around too many principals, teachers? Why is that happening?
Got it. I'll take the first one. So related to school growth, we did not have school growth scores for 2019-20 and 2020-21 due to the pandemic. We do have them for preceding years and for years that have come after. And this number, 146, is higher than any of those years for schools meeting or exceeding growth. So the pandemic did have an impact in that we didn't have growth scores for 2 years, but it doesn't negate in any way the number of schools that now are meeting or exceeding growth. One could argue, well, we have more schools, so it makes sense maybe that you would have more schools meeting or exceeding growth, but that's where the percentage comes in. 83.4% of schools meeting or exceeding growth is second only to 2015-2016 when we look across the last 9 years. And related to schools and principals and teacher movement, refer to you.
Yeah, can you repeat the last question?
Just looking at the list of schools coming off low performing versus coming on, it seems to be about the same number. We want to make sure we're not neglecting schools that are doing well so that they're doing worse, and the schools that are doing worse are doing better. And I just want to ask what's happening there, and does that have anything to do with shuffling around too many teachers, principals, maybe from low performing schools to better performing ones, vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is that we have 186 amazing schools exceeding growth year over year. That's our goal. And where we see that that's not happening and where schools need support, we're looking at what support is needed and then what we can do to provide for that. There's a certain amount, I think Principal Gerald said, like systems matter. So our service delivery model, the way we're set up for this year is to attend to the needs of 186 schools. That's why we've got assistant superintendents of school performance who can say, I personally know and am coaching this principal and I know what this school needs, can advocate for it. And in cases where a school might need more than what another school might need, then that's where we as a district are looking at that. You know, and that's across the board. I mean, that includes things like staffing. But you know, I mean, now we know where to go. We know where all the best people are. No, I'm just kidding. We're not doing that. That's not our modus operandi. We're not looking to rob Peter to pay Paul to make schools better. We're looking to make schools better with the people who are in those buildings, the partners who are supporting those buildings, families who are supporting those students. We're looking to have 186 amazing schools serving students in the way they need to be served.
And I think what you'll note in the data that Beth talked to earlier is this is the first time that we moved more schools off than actually went on. So you are now seeing an opportunity for us not only to reduce the number not only to increase the number of schools that are coming off the list, but also reducing at the same time. So it definitely is not a swap. We want to attend to all students in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. And you heard from amazing leaders here, and that's what we want for every single school.
Jonathan?
I would stand, but I've got a computer on my lap. So. Jonathan from WSOC. So I have a question. I think it's for Beth, and I have a question for Principal Marshall. So I was noticing the competitive person in me and product of CMS always looks at what is happening across the state and our, if you want to say it this way, our competitor, Wake County. There are several areas where we come behind them and behind the state average. That would be graduation rate, science, and some other areas. And I've asked this kind of in the last couple of years, why are we always behind them if we have, you know, such great schools? So that would be my first question. The graduation rate part of it is really concerning for me. And if you could add to that, Beth, where are those kids going? The ones that are not graduating, have you all been able to figure out where they're ending up? And then for Principal Marshall, Dr. Hill and Dr. Balknight have, since they took over, have been focusing in on chronic absenteeism. And I know that you brought that up. This was the first time, though, that I've heard someone mention cracking down on staff chronic absenteeism. Can you speak to how you did that as far as telling teachers, like what was the problem? They were just calling in sick a lot, or what was it? And how that impacted the growth you saw at your school?
So I'll go first. I can speak to you know, where we are related to the state average. We're watching it and we're talking about it on purpose because it is our goal. Not that we're seeking to be competitive or anything like that, but when we see people who are performing at a rate that we're not performing, we want to learn from them and we want to know what's going on. So in the areas where you see our performance under the state, we're going to be watching really closely, and those are areas where we're going to have continued improvement. Related to Wake, we just haven't gotten there yet. And we enjoy partnering with them on many, many, many things. There is no reason we can't be performing where Wake is, and we are going to be. Beth, I'll turn it to you.
Okay, so I am super competitive. And it's just in me. I'll thank my dad for that. And I do want to be the best in all the areas, not for Beth Marshall, but for the kids that walk through that door and the parents that trust them with me. And what I said from the beginning when I started digging through the data in July, saying, what is happening? Like, why are teachers not coming to work? Why are kids not coming to school? We were at almost 50% chronically absent, which chronically absent, I hope I'm correct in saying, is 10% or more of the school year. Okay. So I said, we've got to fix that. So I think in my very first staff meeting, I made no bones about it. Attendance matters. It matters for staff and it matters for kids. So you can't complain about kids not coming if you're also sitting out of work 1 or 2 days a month. I also model it. I don't miss. I have terrible sinus infection. I don't miss work. I go to work. I serve my families and my community. And then I added incentives. So lots of incentives. We had perfect attendance each week. We had perfect attendance gift cards. But remember, I have great partners. So my great partners helped. I didn't have to write my own check. Great partners provided those financial resources to high five and celebrate those teachers who came consistently. So they went in my memo each week. They went on the board. They got gift cards. And I just made a big deal about it. And we're all kind of motivated positively, I think. So when you're high-fiving the person that's there, then you might have said, I got a little sore throat, but you came to work anyways. But not if you're sick. So I made that very clear. Not if you're super sick. If you're really sick, stay home. So that was really it. And honestly, it made a huge difference. Everybody's talking about people excellence. People make the difference. So I made no bones about that.
Can I come back to your graduation? Where are students going? I would just highlight 2 things. I'm going to try not to speak too long to them. Our graduation rate reflects the percent of students who graduate with their cohort. So let's say, for example, a student drops out of school their sophomore year. That student will have been pursued. I'm looking at Dr. Jill Payne right there with our Student Services Department. That student will have been pursued extraordinarily to try to make sure that dropout does not happen, that student stays in school. But sometimes it's not reflecting a student who just maybe doesn't make it to the finish line their senior year. It could reflect things that had started earlier. I think our opportunity for continued partnership in intervening with students, AKA we're going to need the support of our community to help them see what's possible for them in school, but also to support their ability to stay in school and perhaps meet needs that their family has. Alongside that is going to be really important in doing that. And the second piece is, speaking of systems, we want to really shore up the way we're able to know where students are. And for example, if a student doesn't come to school today, let's say, it sometimes is a little bit of a struggle to figure out where they are. And that sounds like that should be the easiest thing in the world, but let's say a student's family has moved to another country. Finding them in that other country can be really tricky. Not an excuse, but we do want to make sure that our systems are set up to be able to track it early, and then our documentation of that accurately reflects what our graduation rate ultimately ends up being. And I can see Susan's trying to move us along.
Okay.
El año pasado anunciaron un plan para mejorar la asistencia de los estudiantes en clase y también para disminuir las faltas injustificadas. Quisiera saber si tuvo algún impacto y también a qué atribuyen el éxito de que más estudiantes latinos se hayan graduado en el año que les corresponde.
Okay. Last year we showed there was a lot of unexcused absences, and so we want to find out what happened, where there were improvements and where they weren't meet the goals that we expected.
So chronic absenteeism and average daily attendance rate isn't a part of this state data release at this moment in time. That will be forthcoming from the state. We are looking at unofficial numbers, and based on those unofficial numbers, it appears to us at this moment in time, how many disclaimers can I use? It appears to us that our average daily attendance rate has increased slightly from the previous year, and our chronic absenteeism rate has decreased. However, that is our unofficial calculation at the moment. We do anticipate that coming out officially from the state later this year, and we look forward to being able to share more about that as that comes out.
Y la segunda pregunta es, ¿a qué atribuyen el éxito de que más estudiantes latinos se están graduando en el año que le corresponde?
To what you attribute the success for the Hispanics having higher graduation rate and growth rate?
Yeah. Do you want to speak to that? Or I can too.
One of the things that we've done this year is we've been very intentional with our supports for our multilingual learners and our Hispanic students. We also have restructured our school social workers to support to make sure we're communicating with families. Many of them are bilingual as well, so that we're talking with them about the importance of being in school. But in addition to the graduation rate, reviewing those transcripts are so important. A lot of times when our newcomers come to the United States, we need to make sure that we evaluate their transcripts so they can get credit for those courses from their home country. So all of those things have been a part of the support to make sure that our kids graduate at a better and higher rate.
Gracias.
Last questions here because we're running out of time. Dedrick?
Okay, Dedrick Russell with WBTV. A lot of data shared here today. Just want to know, what is the red flag? What are you really zeroing in on? What has gotten your attention so that 3 years it may be a crisis? So what's the red flag? And then also want to ask Ms. Belton, you've been here for 11 years. I don't know what the grade was before. Has it always been a D, or were you an F and things like that? And I want to know, when do you pivot? When do you say, this is not working, we need to pivot to something that is working? We'd like to know about that. And then a yes or no with the 56 schools that are still in the low performing designation. Any staff changes you have implemented this year? That's a yes or no.
You want to start?
Sure. Historically, we had been a C. With the pandemic, we dropped down to a B, and then we came back to a C, and this year we were able to attain a B rating. As far as pivoting, we pivot every day. If it's not working, we change it, we adjust so that we best meet student needs. That happens daily.
In terms of red flag, I don't think there is one red flag. I think those first few headline slides talk about the things that we're watching and we're celebrating, or we're wanting to continuously improve. And those things include things like graduation rate, which we highlighted, reading performance, both reading in grades 3 through 8 and English 2, and then how we continue to decrease the number of schools with that low performing designation, specifically making sure that we can help schools not have that designation while supporting an increase in schools coming onto that designation. So we want to reduce the number and make sure we don't have schools coming onto that list year over year. And I feel like you asked a third question, but I'm...
Yeah, about the 56 schools that are still in the low performing, any staff changes, and what are you doing now?
So what I'll say about, and I said this last year, we do not have schools that are low performing. We have schools that are on a list that is designated as low. So teachers are not low performing, students are not low performing, principals are not low performing. But what it does signal to us is that we at the central office need to organize our resources in order to meet the needs of the students, the teachers, the principals, and the entire community. And that's exactly what we're doing. So in terms of any changes that we're looking to make, no. The school year has begun. We are set. We are locked. We are loaded. We are moving forward. And you know, I always say that things don't just happen. People make them happen. And we are poised to see great improvements.
Okay, last but not least, Rebecca. And quick question, please.
Okay. Hi, Rebecca Noel from the Charlotte Observer. Something that jumped out at me was with Goal 1, that early literacy goal, just seeing that pretty dramatic shrinkage of the performance gap or the achievement gap there over just 2 years. So I'm wondering, this is kind of open to everybody, you know, what are some of the things you've done to tackle that and to see that?
I can speak a little bit from Crop community perspective. We've done a couple of things. We did have an opportunity to partner with the ONCE program last year for our kindergarten cohort. That was an exceptional program. I don't know where we stand on that right now, but that program did support our kindergartners. We are having our rising first graders, 80% of them on grade level going to first grade, so our first grade teachers are very happy about that. We also at Croft Community partnered with the YMCA this year to bring the Y Readers program to Croft, which has been a huge support. We do that during the school year and over the summer for our K2 readers, and Orton Gillingham has been a game changer for us as well. I think a lot of staff for the first time has got some really explicit instruction on how to teach early literacy. And our teacher assistants have now gotten the training, and so now it's really all hands on deck like it's never been, at least where I've been. So Orton Gillingham, I would say, Y Readers, the ONES program, and continued CMS offers amazing supports and resources. Our literacy department is phenomenal. They're always pushing out phenomenal resources, helping us to navigate them, and we're pretty tried and true in using what the district provides for our kiddos, and we've seen improvements in K2.
I think that's spot on, and I think the thing I would highlight there is that when the pandemic happened, we were three quarters of the way through a school year implementing a brand new curriculum with a specific intention around changing the trajectory of K2 literacy in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. And as a person in learning and teaching at the time, we really faced a decision: do we keep doing this? This is crazy. Kids have just gone home. Parents, no offense, aren't 100% sure what to do to support their children. And we haven't even gotten through a year of implementing a new curriculum that we know is going to be a game changer. But at this moment in time, should we keep doing this? And we did. And we didn't just do it. We then turned around and devoted a significant portion of our federal funding to support K2 teachers with Orton Gillingham professional development so teachers could get better. So we didn't stop. Hopefully we were responsive to things that people needed along the way, but there was a moment where we could have said, let's pause. And we said, we can't pause, can't stop, won't stop. We've got to keep going even in the face of adversity. And what we're seeing now is a result of not stopping. And I'm proud of that. And I hope folks are as well.
And Rebecca, I just want to add one thing to that. Here in the state, there's been a huge push around K2 literacy. So, you know, with the statewide letters training, schools had to opt in on where they would be in terms of the cadence of taking that training. And so here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, long before Crystal Hill was even in the district, the decision was made to move forward with letters training, yes, in the middle of the pandemic. And I know that because I was the chief academic officer in Cabarrus. We made that same decision, and Beth and I were on a lot of calls together during the pandemic. But I think that you are seeing, not just here in Charlotte, but across the state, that investment in early literacy is really paying off, especially for those districts that were early adopters and jumped in. And to the question that was asked earlier about what about 3-8, you're going to continue to see that investment pay off over the long term.
Well, thank you all for coming. Dr. Hill has a few closing remarks at this time.
All right, thank you, Susan. I will be very brief. I want to thank everybody for spending time with us. I hope one thing that you will take away is that things don't just happen, people make them happen. Those aren't Crystal's words, that's a quote from Zig Ziglar. But today you heard just from a few of our amazing, outstanding principals about the work that they do every single day and the staffs that they work with. They have a heart for children, and they also have a heart for the staff that they lead. As you learned today, our school performance data for the 2023-2024 school year shows that we are continuing to make progress. While these accomplishments, we celebrate these accomplishments, we also view the 2023-24 school year as ground zero, where we were working to stabilize and standardize processes and procedures. We have intentionally reorganized our district learning communities, which were originally organized geographically, and starting this year, we have created school performance areas where we are now organized by grade span. Each school performance area is led by incredible assistant superintendents with expertise in the grade span for which they are responsible. Additionally, school leaders and staff in the performance areas will receive professional development and curriculum support based on that grade span. We have Herculean goals, and when I say we, they are our goals, this community's goals, because the goals really reflect the vision and values of our community. It's in the area of literacy, math, and career and college readiness. We know that achieving these goals will require everyone's commitment, so we're counting on you, because we know that endless possibilities start with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you all for coming. Our district leaders are going to have to skedaddle because we have a meeting at 1 p.m. that is coming up. If you have any additional questions, you can email the media mailbox at media@cms.k12.nc.us. And we thank you all for coming. We appreciate you.